kids at home, homemade math
Batteries,
this summer.
remember your breakfast, remember your plugs, and don't forget to bring your glasses if you need.
This is another craft that we could make. It's called a student in college. It's a practice SAT. And so the idea is, if you're in the 9th grade or you're in the 10th grade, the ACT is ticket to college. Time test, wear a watch, are my glasses. So let's say that I
Joining us today on Homemade Math.
Give me 5. That's the subject of today's Homemade Math with Natalie Feast, who's the director of the math program for the Fayette County Schools, kindergarten through 12. And 5 stands for fun, interesting, valuable, and entertaining. And welcome to Homemade Math, and I'm Judy Conrad, your host. Natalie, this is going to be a fun show today. You're going to have great fun over the summer, just outstanding time with summer. Why is it so important for us to keep going over the summer? What's the summer lag? We've heard of that term. What does that mean for parents, and why is it so important?
Sometimes parents may hear this term, summer lag, summer slide, but really what they're talking about is this. When kids are in school, you keep learning you just keep learning every single day. But during the summertime, we're not in school.
No.
So sometimes the researchers have found out that it's not that kids stop learning, it's that sometimes they fall backwards. So it's why I call it a slide or a lag. But what the researchers know is this. If you spend 5 minutes a day working on math, an intentional math, that's going to make a difference for your kids, and it stops that slide from happening.
Well, how much time should a parent, think about doing per day? Or should it just be during the week, or just, every once in a while? What would you recommend to keep up with math for the summer?
The researchers actually say it's every day, and it's every day for 5 minutes or more, but 5 minutes is the key. Someone might say, Miss Judy, what if I play games for like 2 hours on Monday, can I take off the rest of the week? That's really not how it goes, because it's every day. It's doing something math every day, and we're going to show families how to do that through games today, but it's really the 5 minutes of math that you open up the bill that comes in for the cell phone, and you have your high schooler come over and say, let me show you how the taxes work on our cell bill, or the water bill comes. You're like, let's talk about the sewer bill. Did you know it's on the water bill? Or cooking in the kitchen. It's a quick 5 minutes every day that makes a difference for kids.
It's our Give Me 5.
It's our Give Me 5.
One of the things about we know there were things about the pandemic that really made it hard. Unfortunately, our schools were closed for a year. And let's thank our schools for the great job they did this year. My goodness, coming back. Our great teachers, all the staff. But, with the pandemic, we saw an increase of in board games and table, and an increase of family time, which was good. What are some good, quick games for the family?
So I have 2 to show you here today that I love. Now, these are 2 that are out at my house every time. I mean, this one right here is beautiful. It's called Batik.
Mm-hmm.
And it sits out on your table. And the idea, the premise is that you're going to have these beautiful pieces. Batik is, it's a kind of an art. And if you notice, what I love about this game is you just slide the pieces in through this acrylic slide. And the goal is that you want your pieces to fall all the way in. Because if your piece actually sticks out of the top, then you lose. You can't force them in.
I would lose.
Sorry. Yes.
So what I want to do is try to make sure that piece goes in.
Nice. Good job. You can have this on the counter, and you can be playing this game or on your coffee table, and you still carrying on a conversation the entire time. Ends up with a beautiful mosaic, which is why it's called Batik. But it's a fun game. If you think about the translations that we did, the rotations, the flip, slides, and turns, kids will remember that from school. But it's math that's going in there the entire time, and how you rearrange in your visual spatialization. Another game that sits on the counter is called Connect 4. We love Connect 4. It was made in Finland in the 70s. So the idea is that either you're red or black. The different chips happen to be there. So we'll get these checkers chips. And go ahead, Judy, and try to put one in. I kind of started the game early, but I would maybe want to block you, or I would want to get 4 in a row. Connect 4 as we get 4 in a row. It's another game that does require a lot of thought, but you can play it quickly.
You.
You did block me, and so I maybe want to try again. But this is Connect 4, and so we just try to get 4 in a row. These are 2 tabletop games that just on the counter that you can have in your kitchen, that people will play as soon as they walk in the room. It takes about 5 minutes, but the thinking that goes on, do I want to win strategy, or do I want to win blocking you? So fun games. I recommend these highly.
Yes, and in case anybody can't see it on camera, we're at a draw here. It's an even thing right now. Nobody's winning. Dominoes is one of the fascinating games that we learn when we're so little. how early can you learn that game? And then I think there's also a very famous group that uses that on their sign, don't they?
Well, the funny part was we were planning the show today. I didn't even realize that Domino's actually has a domino up on their advertisements, but dominoes are great. Let me talk to our families at home, though, about the math behind dominoes. We think dominoes playing we just do it without even thinking about it. But for younger children, there's math involved here, and it's called subatizing. That's a big fancy word, but that means that when you look at a domino, that you can look and see that happens to be 5. Did you get, but for younger children, they'll first of all start counting every one of those dots on there. But then we add 5 plus 2 to get 7. So with dominoes, you can have quick 5 minutes of math. Let's add each of these two sides to find the sum before we actually start playing dominoes. Whenever you play dominoes, you're actually recognizing what that piece happens to be up on the game board. And so you match dominoes. Remember, if you get a double, it can turn the opposite way. But we're going to build a train. These are sometimes called bones. Your dominoes are bones, and then this is your boneyard. You pull them out to win. But the math in dominoes is being able to see that domino and seeing, oh, that happens to be a 4 and a 3. That's a lot of math going on for a younger child. So important. Love dominoes because any age can play dominoes. They're also portable, and they're small, and you put those in a bag. Lots of different ways. Dominoes, been around for hundreds of years.
Yes, and take them with you when you're out during the day. You can have them out for maybe a little quick game if you're sitting somewhere in traffic, and who knows, that happens all the time. Now, besides dominoes, what's something else that we can use, because it's small, and playing cards comes to mind. So tell us about playing cards and what we can do with those.
A deck of playing cards goes everywhere. You can throw, many of these we can just put in our beach bag, in our pool bag, in our diaper bag, in the soccer bag, but in our purse. You can put a deck of cards that goes anywhere. You can have it in the side pocket of your car when you're driving, so that any given time, you've got cards ready to go. Cards are all about math. So if I'm wanting to practice my 5 minutes of math every day, Judy, flip over a card, and I can do lots of things depending on the age of my child.
This card is an 8.
So we could say, we could find out which is the largest card number on the card, and you could get those cards for students who are young. We could also find the sum or difference, so we can add those up, and we could almost use them in a kind of a flashcard format, or we could put 2 cards out, and we could find the sum. You get those if you win. Mine happened to be 6 plus 2. We could also,
mine is 8 plus 4, or we could also say, what is the 8 minus the 4?
Perfect. And then with older children, the 8 can actually become a negative number. In the 7th grade is when we learn positive and negative numbers. And so you can actually practice for 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes before you go to bed. You can have a deck of cards sitting right beside the bed at night, because 5 minutes of intentional time, and just pull those out and practice facts. A deck of cards is great fun. You can also play rummy, you can play slot, but anytime that you're playing it with cards, you're constantly looking at those cards and thinking math in your head.
What about multiplication?
Multiplication would be perfect.
So if my same 8 and 4, I could say 8 times 4 is 32.
And mine happens to be 7 times 4 is 28. You might win if we were going for the largest total.
Or we could add the next card in and say, aha, I've got 14 now. What have you got?
And you could multiply those every time. We could also do decimals. You could pretend like you could have 7 and 4/10. We could add decimals. You could also do fractions. You know, if you did left hand over right hand, my fraction would be...
and here we've got 3 of them, and I could say, okay, I've got 8 plus 4 is 12. Multiply it by 2, and I got 24.
I love
all
that.
kinds of games you could come up with that are wonderful.
There's also another math game that's called 24, and it says this. It says anytime you can take any 4 numbers and add, subtract, multiply, divide, and it always comes up with 24. It works every single time. You take any 4 digits, any 4 cards, and get 24. It's called the 24 game. It's very popular, and so you can play that with add, subtract, multiply, or divide to get 24. Fun games with a deck of cards.
Fun games with a deck of cards. And by the way, this is a little bit of a teaser for our next question. Did you know that one of the most famous games was invented by a teacher in 1949? Think about it for a minute. Let's talk about our younger group that's coming into kindergarten. It's so important, more important now than ever. What do you recommend for parents of really young children? And now you can tell them what it is. I'll let you give the secret away. And what's the game that was invented by the teacher?
The game invented by the teacher, our parents will know, is a game that's what I remember was my first game. I remember, and lots of parents will remember this too. But getting kindergartners ready for school, my most effective game that I would love for parents to have at home happens to be Candyland. So Candyland is matching and memory. It's great because you do not have to read. When you pull it, if you remember Candyland, I know so many families are going to be like, oh, I remember Candyland. Remember on the cards, you look at the color, it's a color matching game, and it's color recognition, and that's where you move to on the board. So Candyland was invented by a teacher during when actually she had polio, and it was a way that they engage kids and play with kids. So Candyland is the first game I wanted to share. Also, I've got two more and these are inexpensive games. They're not expensive, but this is a great counting game. This is the perfect first counting game for kids, and it's called Hi Ho Cheerio. I know parents are going to remember these and be like, oh, I love that game when I was small. So Hi Ho Cheerio is great for different ages. That you have 10 cherries in your tree, so it's actually added subtracting to 10. But I could have 2 trees, and that would be added subtracting to 20 so this is a spinner game, and I actually pull the cherries off the tree and put them in my basket unless I toss my basket and I lose all the, so Hi Ho Cheerio, a great first addition and subtraction game. Highly recommend. You could also go all the way up to 40 with that. And finally, my third game happens to be one that my dad played when he was young. It's called Chutes and Ladders. Now, what I love about Chutes and Ladders is it's an addition and subtraction game that goes all the way up to 100 on this board. So it's the same premise as that we're going to move across the board, except this time you can see, this is another fun part, is that the even numbers are in blue, the other numbers are in white. And so we're going to maybe climb up a ladder, get a benefit. We're going to go down a chute and we go down. But this is addition and subtraction to 100. Chutes and ladders, addition and subtraction to 100. So these are 3 quick board games. These do not take very long. So I wanted people to know these are quick. These are quick games that you can play with your kids that will not take a long time. The hard part is getting them out. Because we don't always leave them out, but we want parents to say in the summer, let's just leave them out, come play a quick game and walk away. It's not that we play for 3 hours. Play a quick game and walk away. We also have some card games that I might also want to share.
Let's share those as
well. For
the
youngest children, we can get the most popular card game for high school kids right now happens to be Uno. If you've not had an Uno game lately, I encourage you to go get a deck of Uno cards. You can even get Uno dominoes.
Yes, you can.
That's fun too. Uno cards for adults or big kids happen to have numbers and colors. You can also, for our younger children, can have animals on there. Aren't those cute? But you can buy Uno in so many different ways. Another game that was developed by a person working with genetics happens to be the game of Set. Perfect game for middle school and high schoolers is a card game called Set, where you're looking for matches. The idea is that you find matches. So those were more card games and games that we could do with younger children that I wanted to share today.
Not only that, this is a good time of year because a lot of garage sales are going on, and you can nicely find some of these games as children get older. Check out the garage sales because you can get them at a reasonable cost, or many stores have them very reasonably priced. So they're a great thing. One of the games that I think a lot of us can remember, and even now, because a lot of adults will play this, they have sessions with it, all kinds of things. There's a very good game that takes care of learning about money and strategy, and it is
Monopoly. So when you think about board games, everyone loves Monopoly. You might say, Ms. Feast, I know Monopoly goes on forever, but it's a game that you can start playing and you walk away from. You do not have to stay there for hours. But Monopoly is very, very popular. But what's so great about Monopoly is that it's stayed really current. For example, you can have UK-opoly, or you could have Lexington-opoly, or you can have Harry Potter-opoly. So they have, ways that they've stayed current with the game. But the best games are those that belong to people a long time ago, and you pull them out and you're like, oh, I love these. But working with the money, financial literacy is really important. Is it, when do you buy the property? When do you sell the property? Paying rent? All of that's money. And so we're working with money with kids.
Well, let's go on over here because we've got some things we want to show them. Parents need some other ideas. What have you got for us?
So I brought today a bunch of things that I wanted to share for quick ideas for parents at home for homemade math. You can go to the parent-teacher store and see other games. So this is a game that has to do with colors. You find out what color it happens to be and match it up. Colors are very important for younger kids to make sure they know those before they enter school. These are quick games for the car. They're called Brain Quest.
Oh, these are wonderful, yeah.
I love Brain Quest.
Let's pull one out just to give them an example here. Here we go.
So brain question, you ask a question and
All
the
right,
answers
what's
are
the
on the back.
value of the number 6 in the number 562?
There you go. So in the number 562, what is the value of the 6? So it's 60. But if we didn't know that, we could look on the back.
We could look, yeah.
But
Or
those
the
are
number
car
5 is
riding
the-
games. So when you put in the car and you're riding, you're 5 minutes in the car, or when the kids are in the bathtub, you can ask questions. But
Here's
it's quick.
another one. Subtract 43 from 50. What's the difference?
Perfect.
Great
And
score.
so this could also be at the dinner table or breakfast. When you're sitting down for breakfast, you can be like, you know what? Let's go and let's play some of our brain quest. Kids are eating cereal. You pull those out. It's really 5 minutes and do something quick. It's a fun math game.
And since we're in this beautiful library, we've got to give a plug to the librarian. The librarian divided 12 Arthur books among 4 children. How many books did each child get?
And we
Good,
might even have
good.
Arthur on
Absolutely.
KET and find out the answer there, dividing 12 books by 3, getting 4. Make 7, you might think, oh, Make 7 is a game for younger kids finding the sum of 7. Now, this is a game that goes all the way through adults. So, Judy, I set the game up. The premise is this, is that you drop tiles in. I'm white, you're yellow, or you're white, I'm yellow. And then we just try to find 7. But I might want to block you because I don't want you to get close, okay? So you drop the tiles in, you can either have a 1, a 2, or a 3. It's another one of those that you can have on the kitchen table, you have on the dining room table, you have sitting up on the nightstand by bed. Let's just play a game of Make 7 really quickly. It is about the addition facts. That's really important. But also what's really important is the fact that you're thinking, and it's the problem solving and critical thinking that goes on. That's what's so important.
Because you can seriously go up and say, okay, we have 1, 2, 2, 2. How many 2s do we have in there to make 7? We have 3. Then we have plus 1. Take the 1 away, we've got 6. There's so many things you can do with these games just using your imagination. Makes it a lot of fun.
Makes it a lot of fun. Even adults have challenges with, and the more
Absolutely.
you know, the more challenging that it gets.
Absolutely.
I also just brought a cash register. It's a fun game that we can always play at home, which happens to be, let's play Kroger. Sometimes that you buy things that it happens to be maybe that has the price tag on it. So I bought this and it has to be $1.39. So it actually had the decimal price on it I could type in, but we could use Post-its or magic markers and just make things up for prices, and we could play grocery store in our kitchen. We're thinking about or just playing it just for fun, but it's actually working with numbers and money, really important skills for kids. So that's a fun game.
And what the great thing is, they're seeing examples today of fractions, geometry, algebra, all the things that background, and they don't even know that's really what they're getting. That's the beautiful part, but that's what they're learning. Great
That's
thing.
right.
Okay, anything else over here you want to show us?
I think that was it, because it's so, you can just have imaginative play, and then they could also estimate when they're at the grocery store as well.
Let me ask you about travel games, because they were big when my kids were little, and I know they're still out there. They were a big help because we had long distances to go to visit relatives, for sure. Texas or California, try that trip in one day. You can't do it. And are travel games still a good value?
Travel games are super popular. So I brought a couple here today because remember we had talked about at the beginning, we were playing Connect 4. You might say, Ms. Feast, there is no way I can take that big, all those chips and that game board with me. But guess what? Connect 4 right here goes in your pool bag, goes in your beach bag, goes in the side pocket of your car. We're going to Grand's house. Take this to Grand's house. We're going to be flying on a plane. The travel games are great. They're also less expensive. Here's another reason why my mom likes travel games, because we can have a lot of these in a drawer at Grandma's house, so we don't have to have a big closet full of games.
And you pull one out. This is Yahtzee.
And travel Yahtzee is fun because it actually has a bar that you actually shake without losing the dice. But travel games are inexpensive. You can buy them at Walgreens, Meijer, wherever it has to be. You can buy them at Amazon online. But absolutely, travel games, highly recommend. They are the same game. They're just in a portable format, so we don't lose pieces.
Now, what are 2? We already mentioned one. Let's see if they'll figure it out on our show. But what are 2 must games that you would recommend for parents? Right?
Okay. So the 2 must games that every family needs to have for math enrichment at home, for your summer math fun, happens to be Battleship and Yahtzee. So if you were to come up to me and you were to say, what are 2 must-have games for families, I would not hesitate when I would say, we need Battleship. Battleship works with the Cartesian coordinate system. We're actually plotting points. but it's fun. And there's a lot going on here because there's even embedded probability, because if I actually, it might be A7. I'm trying to sink your battleship and all your ships. But if once I hit one, then I realize I've got a probability. I'm doing probability because it's one to be one of those four squares. I've got 25% chance of hitting on the next ship. I've just got to figure out where your ship happens to be. Yahtzee is a great game. I love me some Yahtzee. Yahtzee is great. Yahtzee has, if you remember how it is, you got 5 die that you're going to roll, and there's 13 categories where you can actually figure out where you're going to get your points. We'll make mistakes along the way when we're trying to figure out where we're going to put our score, and then we're like, oh no, it has to go to chance because I put something in. But Yahtzee can be played with 2 people, or you can play with a crowd. Yahtzee is a great family math game, or you can just play with a friend. We can just play with dad, whatever it happens to be. Fun for the entire family. Battleship and Yahtzee are 2 that I want to make sure every family has.
Blocks. Blocks is something we start with. Tell me, you know, because today we child care centers have blocks. We've all played blocks sometime or other. Even high school kids use blocks. What are some games with blocks that you would recommend?
I wanted to share blocks. I've got a lot of blocks going on here. Miss Feast has got an assortment of blocks. We have magnet blocks. We have Lincoln Logs. Remember Lincoln Logs?
Oh, golly, yes.
Lincoln Logs are great. Jenga is a great game. You can also get knockoffs of Jenga that kind of look like this, but you're actually playing. Structures is another, the blocks are put together. But you say, Miss Feast, like when my kids were younger, they had blocks. Pull those back out, even for middle school kids to play with. You can actually build it. So if you're thinking, okay, I've got my little skateboards, I want to make skateboard ramps. So I find pieces of wood. If you build a new house in your neighborhood or it happens to be going up, you can find small pieces of wood and sand those down. But anytime that you're building, that's a really important math skill. When you're putting pieces together to make a larger, how did that work? What is the strongest pieces I can put together? How many squares go to make a closed cube? How many make an open cube? 5 squares make an open cube. 6. All of this happens to be lots of mathematics going on in playing a fun game.
Exactly. And not only that, it's a future, if you've got somebody that's interested in architecture, they're getting architecture without realizing it. Math is so big and also math is in so many things.
It's also the problem solving. It's also making a mistake, and you're like, oh, let's start all over. It didn't work out what I thought it to be.
It's okay to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. Don't worry about that. You learn from those.
Fun and creative.
Now, what about I see a game over here. I don't want to miss it. What about Sequence? Tell us about Sequence.
Sequence,
another great game.
I love me some Sequence. Okay, so Sequence is a fun family game. It lends itself to jump in and play, and then you leave, okay? So you can leave out Sequence and there's different versions of Sequence, but you can leave Sequence out on the table. You can play with 2 people or 3 people or groups of that or multiples of that. So if we have 4 people, we can play in team formats, but this is how it goes with Sequence. There's a little bit of luck and there's a lot of strategy. So you pull your card over and you're like, okay, so I have the 9 of diamonds. So I'm going to have a chip and I'm going to put my chip on the 9 of diamonds. Sequence, we're just trying to get 5 in a row. Okay.
Sorry to correct you, but that was the 10.
There we go. So then I'm looking at whatever pieces, I'm trying to get 5 in a row.
Okay.
The deck of cards, there's actually 2 of each cards, and it's built, and it's all over the game board. Let me show the game board here so the parents at home, so our families at home can see our game board. But they're actually the deck of cards that happens to be. So all the cards are there, and so we've got wild cards, and you can remove chips and add chips, and so that's fun. Sequence is a great family game. It's very highly rated. When you look and see like what's highly rated math games to play with families.
This is one of them, right at
Sequence
the top.
is, because you can play in teams. Another thing that I want to share with Sequence is sequence numbers. Now this is a great game. Highly recommend this game. It is fun. The sequence cards this time are actually facts. So I just pulled up a card and it was 9 minus 7. So what I have to find on the game board happens to be the answer to that, which would be 9 minus 7 is 2. So I'm looking to find out where it's 2. I'm going to put my chip on 2. I'm green, and so then the next person gets to go. But sequence with numbers, you're 7 plus 3, 10. So we're going to find 10 on the board, and that's where you would put your chip.
Right.
Same premise. We're going to get 5 in a row. It's a sequence, but we're doing math facts every time.
And here's one that's minus 9 minus 7 would be 2. So I'm looking for a 2.
It's really a fun way to play the games. Okay, so let me just tell you, how long does this game last? 5 minutes. You can play 10 minutes. I've never played longer than 15 minutes. They go really fast.
They do go fast. You're absolutely right.
And so we could be playing and I could just get up and walk away and somebody else can sit down and play versus you. So it goes really fast. Love sequence, highly recommend.
I wonder if our audience knows the #1 board game of all time. Ready? And it's chess. And an interesting thing about chess is it's over 1,500 years old and was started in India. Just a little sidebar on that. So you got some, see, we learn all about history and everything, math, and it's all connected.
It's fun for families to remember that chess is something that you can play online now. Kids play chess versus, I know my kids play online versus other, there's also, you can play by yourself chess, you can play, but the main way to play it is with a partner, right?
Right.
And so I'm going to anticipate, I know the moves, I'm going to anticipate my moves, but I wanted to show the no stress chess because it actually tells kids like, here's what, this is the bishop, this is what you play with this. So it gives you hints and it tells you like what you might play in a next move. I love the chess is the #1 game of all time. They also have different chess sets. So I wanted to also, if you have field trips to remember, there is, if you go in St. Louis, there's actually the World Chess Hall of Fame. I love the World Chess Hall of Fame. You gotta go. If you get a chance to go to St. Louis, but there's so many chess sets and there's so much about chess and they have different, it's almost a museum but they play, ESPN, they play chess and that's where they play is in St. Louis.
And the great thing about our schools is so many of them have chess clubs.
Teams.
Another way to grow, just learn to play chess. Nice place to
You
do
don't
it.
even have to win with chess.
No,
it's the thought process and it's
It's
learning how
teaching
to play.
You patience.
Yes.
And how to learn
Because
and how to think.
Because I'm anticipating your move. If I make a move, what are you going to make next? That's a life skill.
Yeah.
So chess, #1 game of all time.
Right. Great game in that. Okay. What about those kids who are really crafty, art-minded, and are there games related to that will also help develop their math skills?
Yes.
Aha.
So I brought today some of my favorites because we love crafts. And a matter of fact, I was talking to someone before the show and they were like, I didn't even realize that when I was doing spirograph, do you remember this is like an oldie but goodie? Like I had spirograph when I was a little girl. But the designs that you're making, all of that geometry, very important. The fashion plates I wanted to share because when I was a little girl, we did fashion plates. Now it's also known as a best toy that you can buy. When you, fashion plate and spirograph is also, you can buy deluxe sets.
Yes.
Fashion plates is something that for girls and boys, if you think about designing clothes and you think about what are the most popular designers. So I wanted to say fashion plates, highly recommend designing. Paper airplanes is another fun thing.
Yes, another one.
So think about it, you don't even have to, all you have to have is a sheet of paper. And then we could, for our homemade math, 5 minutes at home, we can make paper airplanes and have paper airplane competitions across the kitchen or across the yard. Easy origami. I wanted to fold my paper to make a cup. Folding paper, you can actually go online for your 5 minutes a day and try to figure out, what am I going to make? But you start with a square, you fold your paper, but you can make all kinds of designs. Want to make a little frog? Want to make? I made a cup, and you can actually put water in these, Judy.
Yes.
It started out with a square origami.
And this one looks like it would hold it too.
They will. They really will. So I just started out with a piece of paper and I knew how to, but there are books that teach me, or I can go online and find out once I start with
Designs,
a square.
all kinds of things.
How can I make origami shapes? This was one that we were talking about, portable, easy to go, travel size. You can even pick these up at the store. This one happened to come from Barnes & Noble, and I love that. Origami, easy pieces of paper, fun, crafty. Always doing math. And you can attach these even to put like a card in there. Perhaps since my birthday card, it can be an origami.
Right. And we don't want to forget one of the all-time favorites as well is checkers.
Checkers is the #2 board game of all time. Chess is #1. Checkers is #2. Monopoly is #3. So those are all extremely popular games. This happens to be the kind of the yard game that I brought in. It's like on a rug.
Right.
Checkers is, we have lots of checkers. I was working here, one of our workers at the school that we were working, he said, you know what, Miss Feast, all these games, they're at Ollie's too. There's lots of places that we can buy them, but also maybe our grandparents have them in a closet or we have family friends. So go to your friends and say, pull those out. I also wanted to remind people that, there's a lot of future in games, and I thought shared today games that we could go buy, that we could have on the shelf at home. This is fun. This is what we're talking about, summer fun, ways to stop the summer slide.
Exactly.
When we're doing spirograph, when we're doing origami, when we're playing Make 7, all of that is helping us be smart at math. We're not losing math skills, we're gaining math skills over the summer. But we could also make our own games. So I have a poster board, and we had, creating games has a huge future. There's lots going on in the gaming world out there. People make lots of money. But it's not only fun. We can have a family game. Maybe we're going to go on a trip to the lake, and we might make a board game about that. Or we went to a museum. Let's make a board game about things that we do. Or we have a passion and hobby that we love. Let's do a board game, and we can, it's fun just to make the board game and sit down and play it. So we could do that with friends. But game development careers, there's a whole universe of games, and that's what we wanted to share today. So many things that we can learn and play.
It's all about Give Me 5.
It's
all
about
Give Me 5.
The strategy is this, is that we spend a short time with our families having fun this summer. Fun is with games, and by playing games, no matter if we leave these out, don't feel like I have to put them up immediately, but have the games sitting out on the counter. Have fun. Take 5 minutes and say, it's going to be family game night tonight. Here's another helpful hint I thought of just now. I want to share with parents, it's best if parents actually think about the rules and learn the rules to the board game ahead of time. It makes it a lot faster. But you might say, well, my kids, we haven't played a board game in a long time. Tonight's the night to start. It's never too late. You might be like, I haven't played a game in forever. Let's remember how to play. It's okay to read the rules. It's okay to just say the first, and you don't even have to have a winner. We're just playing for fun.
Right. Well, I want to remind folks too that what you can also do is get yourself some kind of a container. Let your kids help you put together what kind of games would you like this summer, and put it in there, and then find a place where you can get to them easily. So take a shelf. Who cares? It might be in your living room. Who cares? Put it someplace where it's handy for that child when they can come to you and say, hey, I've got something I'd love to play. And that's the best way to do it. It really, truly is. We want to, but, go ahead. We got some more.
Yeah. Your Ziploc baggie is also your friend. Remember that we could just
have that. Yes. What do we got here, Natalie?
I was thinking
we got crayons.
Well, I put crayons in there. I put dice in there. I put silly putty in there. We can certainly play games with silly putty in the comics.
I got some bubbles.
I put bubbles in there. When you blow bubbles, first of all, the physics
start counting
in
the bubbles if you can.
Well, the physics that goes in there, you catch it in the wind. How far does a bubble travel? You have races with those. I have a Frisbee free from the public library. We're going to throw that and see how far it happens to be, estimating on length. But having your baggie of anytime math, that's the key. So I have a tape measure in there. I have chalk. Summertime math, we can play a game with chalk out in the driveway. We could have, not only have a great day and put fun messages to our family or welcome to our house, but we could also do hopscotch, for example, and have different math facts on there. Multiplication facts. You talked about how important it is to learn multiplication. And that would be a bag that I would have in the back seat of my car, no matter where we were.
Well, you could put together several of these, use them over the summer. And just
Wouldn't that be fun?
Put a couple of them away, and then as they use this one, you say, hey, I've got another one for you. It'll keep their interest too.
Yes.
Great idea.
Put your decks of cards in there.
Great
ready
idea.
to go.
Yeah. What else we got?
The other thing I thought of was that we were in the library. Let's talk about a couple of books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What better place to be than in a library with some books? What have we got? Because reading and math, as we know, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you know we talk about this with the ACT, how both of them come together and really can't have one without the other, basically. So, okay, let's see what we got there. This is called Endurance. My Year in Space by Scott Kelly.
Scott Kelly, you may have seen him. He's an astronaut. He's written a lot of books.
Nice book.
Hidden Figures is another book that we love, a math book related. I want families to know that they can also, there are games at the library. So when you go and visit your library, they'll have game station. They call them maker spaces. Checking out books and having a basket in the car or by the bed or so going to your library and finding Stuart Murphy books, whatever every library is going to have a section that's going to maybe relate to mathematics. But we want to know that books are your friend. We were in the library and I thought we would be remiss not to mention that today.
We need to make it.
So I wanted to mention libraries, mention books to read because there's such a connection with reading and math. And we can learn how to win. There are strategies to win at chess. Let's go get some chess books and learn how to do that.
Well, and while we're here in this beautiful library, we'd be amiss if we didn't thank Mrs. Amber Tongate, who's made us so welcome here. This is our second show that we've done here. well, the last show before the pandemic was in here, so we're glad to come back. And we can't thank her enough for what she's done for this wonderful library and for the wonderful principal here, Mr. Christopher Salyers. We thank them both so very much. And we're so glad to be in this library. I hope that you have gotten something out of today with the fun, the interest, the valuable information, and the entertainment factor. And before we leave, I want to give our philosophy about math for you again. We give it every time, but it's so important. And it's our philosophy with homemade math is that parents can build a bridge between the math their children do in school and what they do at home. Mostly have fun with math and know that everything that they do is to encourage and promote math does make a difference. And before we leave today and do our sunglasses, we want to make sure we thank Robert Lewis, Linda Dawhara, Carrington Walker, and our 2 interns who are with us today, Eureka from Dunbar High School and Isaac from STEAM Academy. Thanks to all of them for their part in getting this done. Well, kid?
All right, I'm ready for summer.
Ready for summer.
Let's go play some games.
Let's go do 5.
Homemade math.
And good news, we'll see you again in the fall. So be watching for our next show in the fall. And if you've got any ideas you'd like to get to us, please let us know. Thanks again for watching. We really appreciate all of you.
Practice.